How's it going, my friends? I hope you had a fantastic Easter and Passover weekend. I just wanted to remind you that you too can do your part to help out this show by heading over to patreon.com/roadie-free radio, becoming a monthly subscriber and patron for as low as $1 a month. Every little bit helps to keep this show coming out week after week. I want to thank you in advance. That's patreon.com/roadie-free radio.
What's happening, roadies? This is Barbara Copeland.
This is Derek Green from Sepultura.
What's happening, roadies? This is Chez Stock, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right. What is happening, roadies? Welcome back. Episode 132, coming at you from a barn in Northwest Connecticut. My guest is the formidable Chez Stock, tour manager and front of house for Miss Amanda Palmer. She's got a hell of a resume and a hell of a fighting spirit. We're going to get into her in just 1 second. I also want to remind you that today's episode is sponsored in part by airturn.com. They have been with me for the last couple of years, supplying me with the AirTurn Go Stand, one of the best portable mic stands on the market that I use on the show on a regular basis. In fact, I'm looking at it right now, holding up my very favorite Telefunken M80 microphone. If you head over to airturn.com and use the code ROADIE, you will save 10% off your entire order. Listen, if you're looking for any Bluetooth pedals or multifunction remotes or some really great tablet holders for on stage, head over to AirTurn, man. They've got the stuff. Use the code ROADIE. Get yourself 10% off when you check out. Happy Easter. Happy Passover. I hope you guys were well and you celebrated well and had some good times. We took our son, young Dakota, into New York and Brooklyn for the first time. Blew his mind. Went to the Natural History Museum. Spent an hour and a half online buying tickets for that. That was fine because it's all about him. It's all about him now. Everything we do. And here's the highlight for me of his trip there. My best buddy Victor, who we stayed with in Brooklyn, has an Elisa's electronic drum kit for his son to play on, who's 13. And Dakota, young 3.5-year-old Dakota, climbed up on that stool several times during the weekend on his own accord, picked up the sticks, and was banging away on the drums. He looked good. He even would count off, clicking the sticks. 1, 2, 3, daddy. That was a keyboard. I was playing the keyboard. It was fantastic. I think we may have a drummer. I think we may have a drummer. I don't know. He bounces between that and wanting to sing into my my microphone, my PA here in the office. So it's either a lead singer or a drummer, or maybe he's going to be like a Phil Collins, play and sing. We'll see what we get as we go. Happy birthdays are in order, my friends. Guitar tech Stephen Charlie Cohen. Happy birthday, brother. Singer, songwriter, and guitarist John Manson. Tour manager Jim Runge. Terrence Yoshiaki of the Transcenders, whose partner Mike Fratantuna we've had on the show. And a very good friend of mine, has nothing to do with music, but a very good friend of mine and casting director out in Los Angeles, who, were it not for this woman, I wouldn't be anywhere near anything that I've accomplished in the film business. So to you, Orly Sidowitz, if you or anyone you know is listening, thank you and happy birthday. Guys, the merch store is open. Things are up. Okay, we got buttons now. We got stickers, as you know. We got t-shirts are back in. You can get yourself a t-shirt. We also have limited edition, 2 things. Michael Bloomfield Legendary Licks book. If you are a fan of Michael Bloomfield's phenomenal tasty tones, pick up a copy of this book. I got it at a discount right now. I only got 9 of them left. I had 10. Boom, 1 already went, so I got 9 left. Pick up your copy. Phenomenal book. Comes with a CD, so you can learn the licks. As well, we have a poster from the film Brass, Glass, and Steel, the making of Arlen Roth's Slide Guitar Summit, which is a film that I worked on, labored on, as I've told you, and didn't get to come out. But the poster is super cool. I mean, the poster is made by Mike Dubois up in Woodstock, graphic artist, who's done a lot of stuff. He was a guest on the show, actually. You can find his episode. Graphic artist up in Woodstock, New York, made this poster for me for the film. And I've only got about 25 of those left. So trying to move those out. It's a cool piece of artwork, man. Go check it out. roadiefreeradio.com/merch. Do not forget, Wednesday, May 29th, there is an event, a memorial concert at Mulcahy's Pub and Concert Hall for Mr. Todd T-Boy Confessore, tour manager, stage manager for Night Ranger, and Night Ranger will be headlining. Todd was also out with Danger Danger, Trickster, Kiss, Stone Temple Pilots, Marilyn, Manson, but for the last 10 years, he's been tour manager for Night Ranger. Head on down Mulcahy's Pub, Wednesday, May 29th, 3232 Railroad Avenue in Wantagh, New York. Okay? A lot of good stuff going on there. Guys, we are also sponsored today by gig-gear.com. Gig gloves. These guys make the gig gloves. You know the gig gloves? I talk about them all the time. Gig gloves are the best way to protect your most valuable asset on any gig, job, or show, man. Your hands. You got to protect your hands. When you're wearing your gig gloves, there's practically no task that you can't do without your gloves on, keeping you safer and more efficient. Now, for all of you front of house engineer or monitor engineers out there, the two-hand touch is an efficient and ergonomic solution that eliminates all of the problems of having to hold an iPad or tablet by putting it right where production pros need it to be, directly in front of them. So when you use the code ROADIE, you will get 15% off your entire order over at gig-gear.com. Use that code ROADIE, gig-gear.com. That's a lot of useful gear for you guys out there. So listen, Chez Stock. Chez Stock. Shay's awesome. This was like our fourth time trying to get this interview together. We had some technical difficulties. We finally figured out a way to do it and to have Shay on the show. And I'm very glad that we did. Very glad. Some of you may know Shay from Facebook, from Instagram, from social media, from working. She is a sound girl. She is a badass. She goes in the classification of the badass sound girl. Okay? She's out there. She's fighting the good fight. She learned her chops coming out of Alaska, went to audio school, majored in audio production at the Art Institute of Seattle. She's gone on to work with Carlson Audio. All right. She then went on to Eighth Day. She's worked with artists like the Black Keys, Eminem, Tool, Slayer, and Megadeth. As I mentioned, she's also currently out with Amanda Palmer. We get into that. Super cool. Amanda sounds super cool. I gotta dig deeper into the Amanda Palmer world, learn more about what she does and how she gets it done. But Shay, not only is Shay a hardworking roadie, but she's also a fighter for those without a voice, for those struggling to find their voice. And she champions women, minorities, and in an industry that frankly can be tough to accept change. You hear what I'm saying out there, people? You got to change sometimes, right? Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or whatever you are. If you're a fucking turtle and you put up a better mix than the 70-year-old dude who's been doing it for 50 years, guess what? Give the turtle a fucking job, okay? Anyway, Shay fights for the turtle. I just did that. Shay, if you're listening, I don't know what I'm saying here. I'm just going for it, okay? Anyway, thank you for being on the show, Shay. I appreciate it. Enjoy this episode with my friend and yours, Miss Chez Stock. Hit it.
Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
I wish I had like an RE20 or something to be talking into.
That was going to be one of my first questions is what is the microphone? Because it looks just from the piece here like a Telefunken, but it's not.
It's not. It's a Sennheiser 935.
The old Sennheiser 935.
Yes. It's like the it's the hypercardioid model.
Oh, lovely.
Still dynamic, nice like silver blue capsule.
Yeah, very
it's
cool.
very fashionable.
That's awesome. I've been stuck on this. What's that set you back? That mic there, that Sennheiser.
Like a little over $100.
Oh, so it's
not super expensive.
It's like their 58.
It's like their 58, but it sounds so much better.
Interesting.
I mean, pretty much everything sounds better than a 58, but
What's the little more top end? A little more crystalline
yeah,
on the top?
it has like a little bit of a peak, like a sibilance kind of peak.
Yeah.
I find it to be super complimentary on like women vocals, where I find like a lot of like 58s or like Audix OM7s are like muffly with women. And I don't know exactly why. I'm sure it's that like presence peak or something.
Now, 58s are a bit more sort of mid-range, yeah?
Yeah.
So I would think with a female voice, though, generally being a bit higher, that would cut through, but no?
I think the reason why I hate 58s is because when you're in a club and your drummer is like 3 feet behind your singer, that 58 is just a room mic.
Right.
And because it is so open, and at least like every other vocal mic out there is at least hypercardioid, so it's going to get some rejection.
Yep.
I think people would be better off doing like a Beta 57A half the time on a vocal versus a fucking 58.
The old
but
standard.
It's the workhorse, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been using this here Samson Q2U. Love it. It's
Awesome.
It's $50.
Dude, I love coming across the Samson mics because it's like the same font as the Shure, and you're like, Samson. Yeah.
And it's basically a 58, but it's got I can do USB. It's got its own headphone port and
Really?
Yeah, headphones and volume. Little buttons right there.
Well, that's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm still in the review stage of this microphone. I'm gonna do a massive video on it and then make a fortune. Shay,
How long have you had it?
How
long have you been working on this review?
I think it's been about a month now, maybe a little bit longer.
Okay.
I did an unboxing of the mic pack. It comes with a little like the clip, they call it,
Yeah.
and a little tabletop stand and a USB
nice.
cable, and they even throw in a probably not the highest quality XLR cable. But because
That's a pretty good deal for $50.
I think it's
man.
$56,
And you get an XLR.
and you get an XLR. It's like only this long. It's like a patch cable, but it'll do the trick. And for podcasting,
We've all been there.
yeah, for podcasting, and to keep something like this in your bag, bouncing around.
Right.
It sounds like I'm doing the
Yeah.
review and the ad.
The review right now.
Right here.
This is the practice.
In our interview. So I want to thank you for tuning in, Shay. Shay, you are currently, this is for everybody listening. I probably said it in the intro, but we are redoing, this is our 4th attempt, I think, at this interview.
Technically 3 were like on one day.
But who's counting? Shay. Wow. So you are back in Seattle right now. You are currently
Portland.
with Oregon, sure. Well, you know what? On your resume, it says Los Angeles, and then in an article,
It does.
says Seattle.
Seattle.
And so
Yeah.
nobody can actually pin you down, Shay.
I try and tell people I'm based on the West Coast for that exact reason, because I would like to be in LA right now, but I'm up in Portland helping out my family temporarily.
Got it.
So my connection to LA is still very, very present.
Right.
And I want people to know that I'm available for work in LA.
And that's why I have not ditched the 323 on my cell phone. After 10 years back on the East Coast, I can't let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
You are currently with Amanda Palmer.
Yes, I am.
You're on a whirlwind situation. We were talking about it the other day, so let's just catch the folks up here. She's doing like 2-3. You've had 7 shows in like 6 months because of her relaxed schedule. No. Tell me
pretty
what's
much.
going on with that.
Well, we did our first 3 warm-up shows in a week, which was a very fast, condensed period of time, considering we've done 3 more since then, and that was mid-February. Our schedule is pretty relaxed because Amanda values time with her family, and her husband is also an artist and is incredibly busy with his own schedule, and they prioritize having time with their son, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
But it does create this scenario where I'm I'm like on a country tour doing Weekend Warrior work. I'm flying out on Thursday, flying home on Sunday, and I don't know what to do with myself for the rest of the week. Been napping a lot. That's kind of good. But it's also valuable, this schedule, because our show is intense. It's a 3-hour like comedy show, crying therapy session, cabaret, music performance.
Are you choking up just thinking about it?
Yes, actually. It is a very emotional show too.
Yeah.
Like we've done intermissions and like people have been sobbing in like the aisles.
Wow.
And just like laying on the floor, literally sobbing. Which I think is kind of amazing, like that there's that sort of response for our show. But because it is that intense, it's kind of nice to have these breaks to like decompress.
Yeah, I imagine for her, it's probably pretty nice to have the break, right?
Yeah, I can't even imagine performing for 3 hours, and then she always takes time to engage with her fans as well. So, vocal rest, she needs it. So
Yeah. What I really know nothing about her. The only thing I know about him is that he was just recently on the Tim Ferriss show. So I was thinking about I subscribe to Tim on his podcast, so I'm gonna have to check that out.
Cool.
Learn more about him. What is the show? How many people are up there with her? What does she do?
So it's a solo performance. It's Amanda and a full concert grand piano, usually a Steinway Model D or a C7 Yamaha, or a C9 rather. So huge pianos. They're amazing. And she plays solo. She also has a uke position, so she'll do a couple songs with the ukulele. And it's very much kind of like a cabaret comedy music show. Like she'll tell a story, do a song, tell a story, go on a tangent, do a lot of audience interaction. And it's at least 3 hours. We're averaging about 3.5 hours, and that includes a 20-minute intermission. We did get it down to 3 hours because we had a curfew one night, but
Wow.
yeah, I think it's naturally more like a 3.5 hour show.
And you are stage managing, or what are you, tour managing in front of house?
Yeah, tour managing and doing front of house, and we also have an LD out with us.
What's the miking situation on the piano?
So I have
I'm
the help
getting
and still.
all my technical shit out of the way.
Yeah, let's do it. So I have the help and still pickup system, which is like 1978 technology, but it works. It's I don't know if you're familiar with the help and still,
Nope.
but it's basically pickups that you install on the bridge of the piano, the soundboard of the piano. And there's 3 like tapes that go through, and they connect to a little mixer. And so you can mix the low, mid, and high register of the piano, kind of balance it depending. Because pickups move, they're not permanently installed, things do change. She's a very vigorous piano player. So things move around a lot. I have to do adjustments during the show sometimes. And then for mics, I have 2 DPA 4099s, which are just amazing. And I use the mics at front of house and the pickups for monitors and like low end for front of house as well. And then we usually use wireless for her vocal because she walks with the mic a lot. She'll get up from the piano, go center stage, do a dialogue with the crowd, go to her uke position, and then back and forth. And I've been trying to stick with Sennheiser wireless for that as well. 935s, 945s are my preference, but sometimes I don't get the option because it's what they have.
Huh. So you don't travel with your own stuff?
Well, I don't travel with my own wireless. I do actually have like a couple Sennheiser units in my closet that I never use for anything. But we just don't have the space to carry around a rack of wireless with the rest of the stuff we have. So we'll get the wireless locally. I'll usually get like a ukulele mic and DI locally. But the piano mics are mine. And then if we ever have to go wired, I have the wired Sennheiser mics that we can use.
What's the crew size you got with you?
So it's me and Lauren Sego at front of house. She's doing lights and I'm doing sound. Then we also tour with a merch manager. We picked up Ani DeFranco's like merch queen. She's pretty like renowned through that scene. So I'm really, really excited to have her with us because I was merch managing as well as doing tour management and front of house and driving and all the other fun things that kind of get lopped in.
Wow.
And the first week of theater tour was kind of not fun in merch zone. So it was like, hey, let's hire somebody. Yes. Then we also have Amanda's personal assistant out with us for most shows. His name's Michael and he's amazing. And he helps pretty much with everything, like everything, like anything that's kind of getting like tossed to the side because everybody else is too busy, he will help out with, which is so crucial on a tour like this. And then he also manages our Patreon table. I don't know if you know much about Patreon, the
Shay, it's funny that you say that.
fundraising.
I actually have a Patreon account here for Roadie Free
You do?
Radio, and for as low as $1 a month, you can sign up and help keep this show rolling.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to sign up. I'm 100% a believer in Patreon.
It's really cool.
It's so amazing, and it's the only way that Amanda makes money. Like she makes money through her music, but
Right,
not really.
yeah.
Nobody makes money on their music. Most people make their money doing syncs, doing corporate sponsorships, putting their music in commercials. And she doesn't have to do that because she has a Patreon with like 15,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, like killing it. And she's been doing the crowdfunding thing for quite some time. She did Kickstarter at first and then moved to Patreon, and she's like the shining glory of Patreon. Like I didn't even know how comprehensive it was.
Does she do a lot of sort of, the outreach in between? There's a lot of different ways you can set it up where you're just talking to those fans individually. I haven't jumped into that too much yet, but I'm going to have to.
You should. The community is pretty amazing. She definitely is very involved with her community. She does a lot of Patreon only releases. She creates content with her Patreons. I want to say 2 of the songs on her record were like input from Patreons, like crowdsourcing, like lyrics almost. Like she made a post asking people what they were afraid of, and she incorporated all of those comments into a song.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. But because of that, she doesn't have a label. She's not beholden to Warner Brothers or any of the majors. She distributes independently. And it's very freeing. Like we're only beholden to ourselves. It's kind of awesome.
That's incredible. That's really, really
Yeah.
cool. Good for her.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go over and
Yeah.
check that out on Patreon because
You should.
I know it's
You
an
should.
amazing platform. Obviously, I use it. There's and she would probably look at me and be like, "Shut up, dude. It's what you got to do." But there are so many.
No way.
There are so many strands to all of this stuff, right? Between like the podcast audience, YouTube audience, Patreon audience, just all the stuff to keep going all the time. But
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And she, at the level that she is with her 15,000 Patreons,
So cool.
she has her personal assistant who's on the road with us helping. Basically, he mans the Patreon table. And it's a table where anybody can come up and ask for information about Patreon, how to sign up for her Patreon. Existing patrons can come up and we have like special little gifts for them. We also we do a lot of incentives with them. We offer them guest list spots. We invite them to after show events. They always get first crack at all of her ticket sales, kind of like fan club release kind of stuff. And then she has a full-time Patreon manager at her office back in New York. So somebody that is literally working full-time, just managing her Patreon account, making sure that she is following her schedule, making sure that her things are going out when they're supposed to be going out, resolving any billing issues. And everybody in her camp, including myself, we're all incredibly accessible to the fans. Like if people need something, it's so easy for them to contact us. If they go to merch and there's not a 6X size for them, we give them an email account, they email us, and we send them a shirt in whatever size they want. This tour and Amanda just in general is all about making sure everybody's included and everybody has a chance.
Yeah. It's so awesome because in a lot of ways, what's happening now, it's possible now in terms of fan outreach has kind of been there all along, but particularly in that 90s group of like the Dave Matthews Band and Fish and, that world, and Joan Jett to a large degree, right? Just selling music out of the back of your car. But now you really can cut out the middleman. I mean, in some ways, it's nice to have that infrastructure behind you.
Right. I mean, the system exists for a reason, and the system works a certain way to benefit certain people within the system. Yeah. And a lot of people don't ever see a different way of doing it. I think I was lucky because when I was in school for like college, I took some business classes and I had an instructor that was an indie guy. And he was like, you got to find your niche and you have to embrace it and you got to find your people because you don't need the structure if you find your people directly. Right. You just have to figure out how to get to them directly. Right. And Patreon is such an amazing way for artists to do that. I don't know why more people don't do it. I mean, it's work. It really is work.
I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, and it's also, that thing, I can't remember who the guy is, but someone wrote that paper about you only need 1,000 fans. You need 1,000 diehard fans. That's what you need. 1,000 people that are going to buy everything that you put out, listen to everything you put out.
And talk to other people. But if you have that 1,000, you're good. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So that's cool. So that's Amanda. So what? You're from Alaska originally. Where in Alaska are you from?
Born and raised in Juneau, Alaska, the only temperate rainforest in the Pacific Northwest.
I've been through there. I think I may have been there. I don't know if I'm through there. I don't know. On a boat.
On a cruise? Yeah, you definitely... was it on a cruise?
It was, but it was a working cruise. It was a party that Paul Allen, this is years ago, hired a cruise ship. I was working for Merv Griffin Productions. This is like 98, maybe 99. Cool. And Paul, for those...
I was still there.
Were you still there? I probably saw you.
I was still there.
From the boat, just waved. Yeah, he had a birthday party. It was like 400 of his closest friends, and which were like Whoopi Goldberg, and and Little Feat played, and
oh my god,
they took the inside of the cruise ship, the main lobby, and brought on a production designer who transformed the entire thing to look like the inside of an Alaskan lodge.
Oh,
and
okay,
then
cool.
we would cruise to places like Juneau, and there would be day excursions, but little peons like me had to stay in.
Right, you were working.
I was charging the walkie batteries type of stuff. I was a PA on this thing. So anyway, okay, so from Juneau, Alaska, what's going on sonically in Juneau, Alaska?
Boy, not a lot. I mean, okay, to be fair, like small towns always have a solid art scene. Like we had, a lot of we had a folk festival. There's a blues festival in a neighboring city called Sitka. We had annual events that would happen in our Centennial Hall Convention Center, but there were no venues. There were no shows coming through like like bands that you would know coming through. When I was really little, Weird Al Yankovic came through my hometown. And that was basically like the biggest thing that ever happened in Juneau while I was a kid. I think we got Rat that played in one of like our strip clubs in Juneau in like the late 90s. So we didn't even get him in the 80s. We got him later.
Sure.
It's very expensive to tour Alaska. So just not a lot of bands go up there. So growing up, this was not even in my wheelhouse of like reality. Like I didn't know that you could be a roadie. I didn't know that you could go and get a job working for a band. My closest access to music, I was always obsessed with music, was working at record stores and volunteering at radio stations.
Cool.
And all through high school, that was kind of my vibe. I worked at a Sam Goody. I worked at an independent record store on weekends for my cool cred, and then volunteered at the radio station. Various radio stations had a little overnight show for a short period of time when I was about 18. And then when I started looking at colleges, because, that's what you do, I guess. You graduate high school and you go to college. I was class of 2000, so it was very pressed on us that you have to go to college. Yep. And I was always kind of like I don't want to go to more school. Like I cannot imagine myself doing 4 more years of school for what? And I grew up poor. So I was like, I'm used to this lifestyle. I don't need to like go be a doctor or a lawyer. Like I can maybe try and do something fun and just be poor. That's fine. Yep. I'll at least be happy. That's what I told myself. So millennial.
Were you one of the first in your family to go to college? Was it sort of that pressure?
Yeah, absolutely. My dad's side of the family, I don't think any of my dad's brothers went to college. On my mom's side, nobody went to college. I was the first one in my immediate family to go to college. And I went to an art school. I mean, it was like fake college. Yep. And I actually found the Art Institute because I was looking for like radio broadcasting programs, because that was kind of like what I knew. So that's what I was searching for online. And I came across the Art Institute of Seattle and was like reading through their audio production program. And it was like, wait a minute, somebody can actually teach me how to like mix a band. Somebody can like show me how to record in a studio. I could learn how to like promote shows. Like what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And then I saw the price tag and was like, what's $32,000 at like 7% interest when you're 18 years old? Who the fuck knows what that even means?
Exactly.
I know what it means now. But yeah, I mean, it,
2-year program?
I made, it was 18 months. It wasn't even 2 years. It was a year and a half.
Wow.
Which was another reason why I was like, I could do a year and a half.
Sure.
And I actually ended up doing an extra quarter because I wanted to get some of the extra classes in at my own expense, but just because I was like, the information here is so valuable and the amount of equipment that I have access to is so valuable. I'm just going to hang out for one more quarter and get this done.
Had you left?
And it was great.
You left Juneau prior to that?
My family lived briefly in Washington State when I was in elementary school. So I had been out of Alaska, and I had actually traveled to Europe after my graduation and had done like a month backpacking over there with my best friend, which was actually a big reason why I even decided to go to college at all, because I saw all these people like on their like college exchanges and like doing all this fun stuff. And I was like, dang, I want this to be accessible for me too.
Yeah.
And that was a motivating factor for me to go to college as well, was taking that trip and seeing other people doing stuff.
But that's awesome. So, I imagine as a fan of music, as much as you were growing up, to land in a place like Seattle at 19, 20 years old to study sound and whatnot, you must have just been in heaven.
Oh man, I was like, the expression a pig in shit. I don't know if you can use that.
Yeah. I think we've already dropped an F-bomb somewhere in this.
Probably.
Half an
I'm
hour.
sorry. I have
okay.
very foul language.
It's okay. You've done a great job holding back. Please don't feel the pressure on this program, this children's show, to hold back your fucks and shits.
Yeah, right. No fucks and shits. Yeah. Shit, what were we just talking about?
Fuck, I don't remember. We were talking about how excited you were.
Getting to Seattle.
Right, it's raining in Seattle.
But raining less than my hometown.
That's right.
Way less. And there was actually sun that existed in Seattle for like 4 months out of the year. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is this? But yeah, I think my first like month that I was in Seattle, I went to like 20 shows. Like I just was like every other night going to a show, bands that I didn't even care about, just because I was like, oh my God, I can actually do this. And I just remember being really disgruntled because I was under 21, and in Seattle, they have a pretty hardcore, like liquor law where you can't, for a long time, you couldn't even have a show that was all ages if there was alcohol served, even if the room was separated. So there was all of these shows of amazing bands that were coming through that like I couldn't go to because I wasn't 21.
Oh, man.
And then like the day that I turned 21, I was like, I don't want any underage kids in these venues. I'm so glad this is just 21 and up, of course.
Wait, so before we go any further, let me ask you this. So starting out in Juneau, not a big music scene. You're doing some radio stuff. You find the Art Institute and you're like, oh, I could go there. Someone's going to teach me about sound. But you don't know really about much about it at all, or the industry for that matter, right? Or anybody in the industry, it sounds like.
No.
Most importantly, you probably don't have any other women to connect with about the industry. What was your thought? Do you remember, or, your thinking as you got to Seattle and jumped into this and into school? First of all, were there any other women in the program?
Yeah, we had, when I started, I want to say that there were like 3 or 4 other women in a class of maybe 30 to 40. So, 10%, I guess, were women.
Yep.
By the time the program ended, I would say like the 40 people that I started with had dwindled down to about 20. And there was maybe like one, for the most part, the women like made it through because, we're used to having to work twice as hard to get half as much. So the program being demanding and accelerated didn't phase that many women, I guess. It was there. I didn't have any women instructors. It wasn't until actually I graduated and was coming back to the school to speak to first quarter students that there ended up being a woman professor that was teaching audio. And I don't know when I was in school that I really picked up on it being unbalanced. I was still very much like this kid from a small town that just thought that like the world was good and that like people weren't racist and people weren't sexist and like we were good, like America's awesome, like it's the year 2001 and like things are great.
2000 came, it didn't blow up. We're okay.
2001 came and things did blow up,
right.
But we made it, we got through and we're like, okay, if this is like the worst thing that's ever going to happen to us, we can get through this. And there was definitely like that naivete of like just not experiencing a lot of life yet.
Sure.
I don't think I really started understanding the sexism that was involved in the business until later in the program. It's kind of funny because my mentor, who is no longer with us, RIP, he was so fucking sexist. And yet he was like like I would not be doing live sound if it weren't for him and his support and his like energy that he put towards my career. And it's wild because he gave me that time because he wasn't attracted to me. And he told me that. He offered me an internship at his studio and at some point was like, I don't think my wife would be okay with other women interning for me, but she's not threatened by you.
Okay.
And it's like, cool. Could have lived my whole life without knowing that, but thanks for the information.
Sharing.
And I think that was when I really started seeing like, oh, okay, like I have had this experience because I'm in Seattle and it's like a white progressive city, but it might not all be like kittens and puppies. Like this could be problematic.
Yep.
And again, I didn't even really see it as being a problem then, you know, like the sexist jokes in class. Like I was still very much in that mentality of like, I'm just one of the guys, ha ha ha. Like I can hang, like I'm not like those girls over there.
Right.
Which is a bullshit attitude and, you know, can only be blamed on my being very young and not understanding.
Yep. And what about once you got out of school and now you're looking for work? How did that start going? Did they help? Did they help with employment?
The Art Institute?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Here you go. Thanks for your money.
They say that they have like a 90% placement rate for their graduates. What they don't say is that half the people don't make it to graduation for financial aid or just like the accelerated program, people getting lost because it's hard to learn sound and video. Like it's fucking physics. Like I didn't understand it until I was almost doing it professionally.
Right. And you're probably still learning now.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a thing. So when I was in school, I always knew that the school wasn't going to do it for me. That if I wanted to get a job, like it was up to me to get out there and network. And one of my teachers always told us like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you don't have the personality, you're not going to make it in this business. You can have all of the skills in the world, but if you can't have a conversation with somebody, you're done. You know, like who's going to hire you if they can't have a conversation with you, especially in this business? It's so interpersonal. So I took that to heart and I networked like crazy. While I was interning at that studio, while I was still in school, I worked with two other engineers at the studio helping to build this. One of them is my buddy Tim. We're still quite close. We actually started a production company while we were still in school. We called it, what did we call it? I think, oh God, I can't even remember what we called it, but I think we called it White Rhino because that was a weed strain. Oh, geez.
That's pretty good.
But it was, I mean, like we didn't make a lot of money. We just, at anything that we made, we just reinvested into the company. But like we were booking shows for people. We were doing like light band management for people. And that was really great for networking and meeting a lot of different people. And then while I was still in school, this is all probably maybe 2 quarters before graduation, my live sound class with my mentor, we went on a tour to one of the local sound companies, Carlson Audio. Carlson Audio in Seattle is one of the bigger regional companies in the Pacific Northwest. They do most of the big shows that come through. They own the most gear and have the best techs and blah, 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 blah. So I was like, this is where I want to go. If I'm going to stay in Seattle, which I didn't really have an interest in touring at that point because I was so new. So we took this tour, which was awesome. And at the end of the tour, I raised my hand and was just like, what do I need to do to work here? Like, how do I get a job working here? And they were like, well, stay after class and we'll give you our business cards and we'll chat. Anybody that has any interest, feel free and stay after class. Well, I was the only student that stayed after class to meet the owner of the sound company and shake his hand and get his business card. And I immediately asked him for a job because that's what you do. And he was like, you know, why don't you wait till you graduate? Once you graduate, like, give us a call. We interview everybody that applies. So, you know, there's a good chance you'll get in here. And I was like pumped. And I didn't wait till I graduated. I basically called that company every 2 weeks from that point on. Got to know the secretary really well. Her name was Patty. And I didn't know this, but Patty was married to the owner, one of the owners of the sound company. So because I kept calling her and was very friendly and very polite and very nice and kept asking for work, she remembered me, and they had a gig where somebody canceled or it came up at the last minute and they just needed somebody that could work from the neck down, like somebody to carry cable, you know, and they called me. This was before cell phones. And I remember I got out of class, listened to my voicemail at my apartment, and got the call from them and immediately called back and was like, oh my God, is it still available? Can I work for you? You know, like, well, what do I need to do? Where do I go? What do I wear? What, you know? And it was like a 4-hour minimum load in on the pier in downtown. And I was literally just like carrying speakers in the rain for 4 hours. And it was like the best day of my life.
Smiling the whole time.
Exactly. It was just like, yes, I've made it. I'm making money and I haven't even graduated yet. This is the best. And you know, they liked me. And once I graduated, they offered me a job, which was sanding speakers, and basically like resurfacing all of the speakers to get painted, and then putting all the components back together once they were painted, getting them fresh, ready for the next year. And that was like a 2-month shop project where I was like sanding speakers in like a Tyvek suit and like face mask in the back of a semi truck in like the winter in Seattle. But again, I was just like, this is the best. I can't believe I'm working in my industry. And you know, because I was working in the shop every day, anytime there were gigs that came up, they always got floated by the shop people first. And at a certain point, my bosses must have seen some sort of something in me. And they offered me the production management job of the sound company. I was like 22.
That's awesome.
And they're like, we want you to run the sound company. Knowing that I didn't know shit and that they could completely mold me into like the production manager that they wanted. Because they had rounds with other production managers who were older, established engineers, and they just never worked out. Because they weren't doing the things they wanted them to do. And probably I was cheap because I was 22 years old and didn't know any better.
Perfect.
So
Perfect though, right? I mean, like,
exactly.
You're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. And it was great. I had a full-time salaried position with benefits, with vacation time. I could make my own hours. And since I booked all of the labor for every show, I could cherry pick the gigs that I wanted to do. I was very insecure about my abilities still. So I usually booked myself as like the lead patch on gigs and wasn't doing like console stuff. I wasn't teching monitors. I wasn't teching front of house because I was too scared. And if it was left up to me to decide, I wouldn't put myself in that position because I was too insecure about it. But I learned a ton.
I bet.
I mean, so much. Like that really gave me such a great understanding of like the big picture of a show and like everything that goes into it.
I also have to think though, on some level, I didn't go to audio school. I didn't go to film school. But I have to imagine that when you've sunk that kind of money in, you're paying off that debt, you spent that time and energy, and then you're sanding speakers, and that's your thing. There's got to be a bit of that push and pull. It's like, okay, well, this is where I'm supposed to be right now because I got to learn the real world shit. But damn, if I don't get my hands on a console soon, I might forget. Like, I'm not going to be as sharp. I'm not going to get that opportunity. I'm not going to learn how to do what it is I do. But then I guess that's what weekends and gigs are for, right? To get out, just watch people and be around it and do it.
You know, and if if I hadn't been the one booking labor, I 100% know that like I would have been thrown at monitor positions. I would have been thrown at front of house positions and I would have been fine. But because it was left up to me, and this is a very common thing that women do, versus men when going after jobs. Like if we don't tick all of the boxes that we think are required for the job, we won't apply. Whereas a lot of men will see that they check 7 out of 10 and they'll go for it. And I'm not saying that that's good or bad that men do that. Like that's how it should be. You should go for the things you want. But women have just been conditioned to not do that. And that was the position that I was in. I had this powerful position. I could have been leveling up pretty quickly if I'd had that confidence, but I didn't. So I kept back. I mean, I was running the entire sound company. It was no joke, but I stuck back to doing like either really, really easy monitor gigs here and there, or just like being the patch master of the entire company. Anytime there was a festival, I was the one that was managing, the turnstile stage with 10-minute changeovers, which, to be fair, everybody should spend time as a stage patch and learn those skills, because that's the fundamental of the entire gig.
Right. That's the key part.
Yeah.
You spent 5 years there, and then you bounced up to Eighth Day.
Yep.
And did a lot of amazing stuff. Black Keys, Eminem, Tool, Slayer, Megadeath. What was that jump like for you?
It was kind of a leap of faith, really. I had a bad day at Carlson and was like, I want to get on the road. I want to tour. I want to be pushing myself further, and I'm not going to do that here again, because I already kind of capped myself there, and I did that. Nobody did that to me. I did that. But I had a bad day, and I was like on my lunch break, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to call Eighth Day. So I cold called Eighth Day, and I had the first name of the owner, and was like, whoever answered, I was like, can I speak with Tom? And the voice on the other end of the line was like, Tom who? And I was like, fuck, there's more than one fucking Tom at this fucking company. So I'm like frantically looking at my paperwork, and I'm like, Tom Marco. And he was like, this is Tom. So the owner of the fucking biggest sound company, arguably the largest sound company in the world, is just answering the phone. No big deal. That kind of tripped me up a little bit, and again was like doing the ha thing. But then I just kind of like went into my rap and was like, this is who I am. I've worked with your touring crews coming through Seattle many times. You guys always seem so pro, and your techs always have like their shit together. The gear looks great. Everybody's generally pretty pleasant, which was not my experience with the Claire Brother techs coming through. And I want to work for your company. I want to tour. What do I need to do to work for your company? And P.S., I don't want to move to Cleveland. I will stay in Seattle. And somehow, like, I think that he just appreciated like the gumption that I had, because he was like, all right, send me your resume. I sent him my resume, and he looked over it. He was like, we have this annual training that we do every year in January. Can you get yourself to Cleveland for this week, and we'll introduce you to everybody, see how you fit in, and we'll go from there. And I went to the training, and it was weird, but it was cool. And I gave my notice at Carlson and was like, I'm going to go touring. I'm so sorry. And I like bawled when I like resigned from Carlson, as if it was like this big dramatic thing. And they're just like, Shay, it's cool. We really want you to succeed, and we love you, and we're going to support you with whatever you do.
And come on back.
And come back. Yeah. And so after the training, I spent like the next month and a half training my replacement at Carlson. And then eventually got the call for my first tour, which was being the patch person and hanging PA for the Duran Duran tour in 2008.
Nice.
Which, like, to this date is still the best tour. Still the best tour I've ever done.
Was that like the first official time you're like in a bus doing it?
No, I had done a small regional tour for Carlson with Zappa Plays Zappa. And it was actually a gig that Eighth Day had recommended Carlson for because they couldn't cover it, and it was just in the Pacific Northwest. So I was the patch person for like a three show run, coordinating, everything on stage, and then also with the recording trucks because they were doing like a DVD shoot or something on those shows. And that was like my first taste with touring. And it was maybe like 6 months after that I left Carlson and was like, I must get on the road.
Yeah. What'd you like about it? Like, what is it about the road that got you?
I've always been like a nomadic kind of person. Even though I grew up in Alaska, we moved a lot. I lived on a boat. I've just had kind of like that first trip to Europe, like inspired me to go to school so I could travel more. Like travel was always one of those things that I really wanted to do. There's so many places in the world that I want to see. And when I did that first Zappa Plays Zappa tour, it was exhausting. I think I got like 2 hours of sleep every night. But it was like doing a show, but on speed. I don't know. And I've never actually done speed, so I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was just like all of the joy that I get from putting on a show and being part of a crew, putting on a show. It was just like that times 10 on the road. And then I did that tour with Duran Duran and just got so lucky and had the best crew. The sound crew, the sound engineers that I was working for were just like the nicest, most caring engineers and so funny, just all British. So just so much humor, like all sarcasm all day, which are like my people. And I just fell in love with it even more because I was like, oh my God, all tours are like this. People are so nice and they're lovely and they just make jokes and they make fun of me of how I say Worcestershire. Which I didn't say it like that. Coming from a small town kid in Alaska, the first time I said Worcestershire around a bunch of Brits, I thought they were going to shit themselves. Like I still won't even repeat how badly I said it, but phonetically, you know. Good Lord. Anyways.
That's hysterical.
So yeah, touring's like an addiction kind of.
Is it still? You still love it?
Yeah, I do. It's still, I'm a lot more picky about the tours that I do now. When I can be, but I really can't imagine doing anything else. And when I left Eighth Day in 2013, I actually really considered like doing something else. But I spent the next year being like, what could that possibly be? And could not find any solutions. And definitely didn't want to go back to school to be trained for anything else because I was like, I can't be that poor again. Like I have to still pay. I have bills. I have more bills now than I did when I was 20. I can't do that. And I don't know. It's just like I love being in a different place every day, even if it's just a fucking arena that looks just like the arena that you were at yesterday. Different people. The gig is still essentially the same, but it's always going to be different because of the logistical changes. I don't know, just being on the move. Like I don't necessarily enjoy flying, but like I don't know. I'm a nomad.
Yeah.
Like I honestly would not have an apartment if I didn't have cats.
Right.
Like I've considered this like wholeheartely, like when my cats pass on, and I hope that that's not anytime soon, that I will likely just either get a houseboat or maybe try and find like a converted bus or converted van, or just not have a place at all because I tour most of the time.
Sure.
And just be like, okay, I have this, I have a 2-week break. Where do I want to go hang out for 2 weeks?
Right.
And not everybody has that sort of personality.
That could get
but
old.
It really suits me. Yeah.
That could definitely get
Totally.
old.
And I think it does get old for people. I think there's a lot of people that are out there touring that have just gotten so used to how they get paid or how they're taken care of on the road, where they actually don't enjoy touring anymore, but they stay touring because it's what they know or, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not fun to be on tour with the people who don't want to be on tour.
Yeah, I imagine. It can get pretty old.
Super.
Yeah.
Super old.
What do you gravitate toward more? What do you like more? The management side? Excuse me, the tour management side, front of house? No.
Mixing. Yeah, sound is my passion.
That's your happy place.
And yeah, and I do hope that at a certain point I will be able to be just mixing and getting paid a living wage to just do sound, because it's exhausting to do the TM front of house thing. I feel like I'm never able to give anything 100% because I can't. Like literally you can't when you're multitasking.
Yep.
So I kind of say that like everything is at like 75%, which is pretty shitty. That's like a C-,
Right. Yeah.
like I'm giving everybody a C- because I can't fully like commit to any one thing.
Yep.
So like the show is never going to sound as good as it could sound if I was only doing the sound.
Sure.
And my TMing is never going to be as good as it could be if I was just doing TMing.
Yeah.
And I try and communicate that with the people that I work for so they know, like, listen, you're going to see me stressed out, and it's because I have so much going on in my head. And just try not to judge me too harshly, because if I only had one job, I would be a completely different person.
Yeah. Yep. So hint, raise your rate. make more money,
course.
people, so that you can pay me
Of
to do my
course.
one thing. Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And I mean, last year I got really lucky and I picked up a gig with Norah Jones. I was doing monitors for Norah Jones for the last half of 2018, and that was pretty amazing. But I still was doing more than one job because I was the monitor engineer, but I was also the monitor tech, and I was also the system tech, and I was also the stage patch. So I was still doing more than just one job. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is just how it is. Yeah, that gig was great. I really don't like doing monitors though, so it wasn't ever going to last.
Right.
But it was really amazing, and I 100% would do monitors for Norah Jones again. And if Norah Jones ever calls you for anything, just say
Just do
yes,
it.
because she's amazing. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. I bet she seems like she is.
Yeah, so
We've got-
fingers crossed.
Yeah. So we've got a few minutes left, and I want to ask you about sort of when was there a definite transition in you to go from the quiet small town girl to
militant feminist who's drinking out of a male tears mug as we speak.
That is correct, my friend.
Yes, I'm calling myself out.
I love it. I was trying to find a softer approach, but I appreciate you.
It doesn't need to be soft with
No, I
me. Don't
know.
worry.
Yeah. When did that happen? Was it a thing? Was it just like, and how did
It
you?
was progressive.
And how did you? Right. How did you find? I guess the confidence to start putting the, to start owning that.
Yeah. Wow. I would say that I really started seeing how my life was affected by misogyny when I was working at Carlson.
Mm-hmm.
And the honeymoon phase had worn off, I guess. And I was, again, like 22 years old, running a sound company full of men who were twice my age and had twice the experience that I had, but technically I was in charge. And yes, I was young, and there's definitely like some responsibility on me. Maybe I didn't communicate well. You know, I was still learning. I was still very young, and I have shitty tone just in general. So I'm sure it was way worse then than it is now. It's a criticism I hear a lot. I really am a nice person. I just like live in sarcasm and can't help it. So I really started seeing it at Carlson when I would give directions for things and people just wouldn't fucking listen to me. And it was making my job harder because people weren't doing the things that I needed them to do, which is why I got frustrated and ended up quitting, because it was like, I am getting treated differently than everybody else, and that's not okay. And so I was like, fuck it, I'll go on the road.
But I just want to jump in for a second there, because I think also like it's tough because I think age is a part of that at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh,
Yeah.
she is young, right?
Yeah.
Oh, she's just like
I
that
mean-
young person who's squawking over there, right?
Yeah, if I was 55 and had been doing this for 35 years, I would not want a 22-year-old chick that looked like me telling me what to do.
But if you're a 55-year-old woman with that much experience under your belt, I got to imagine most dudes are going to move their ass. Right?
I would hope.
I would
mean,
think.
I would hope.
Because mama's coming. She's going to kick
Yeah.
your ass.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe
Yeah.
not. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, and I'm not trying to take away from that experience. I just think it's tough because, yes, you do feel like, hey, man, I'm kind of running the show, but at the same time, you are 22. I mean, I would feel
Yeah.
that way if someone came to work for me now. I'm, 47. I was like, you're fucking fresh out of school. Like, you need to get beaten up for a while. Guy
Yeah,
or gal.
totally.
Right? Like,
Totally. And I get that.
Yeah.
Like I do get
Yeah.
that. But there's like the concession that you make understanding those circumstances. And then there's like all of the other things that happen to where you're like,
sure.
you know, like just a quick example with Carlson specifically. I was told that I needed to do anger management classes. Or no, I wasn't told. It was suggested in a meeting once that I should maybe do anger management classes. Yep. And I was like, okay, I'm only angry because you motherfuckers aren't doing what I'm telling you to do, and you're making my job harder by not paying attention to like the inventory we have. Yep. And B, if I have to go to anger management classes, I'm bringing all of you with me because you need it too. And why am I the only one getting singled out for being angry when literally there's a dude yelling at somebody in the warehouse right now? I don't yell at people.
Right.
I just talk sternly.
So the roots of it started at Carlson, and then then you found
the
your
roots
voice.
The roots just exist in like in the world, you know.
Sure.
And I think it was just like me slowly realizing like, oh, it's not this like fantasy world where everybody is actually equal that you were told. Mm-hmm. Like that's not really a thing. We're not really equal.
Yep.
And then when I went to 8th Day, it got worse. And it got worse because touring is even more white male. There's even less women. There's even less black people. There's even less people of color. There's even less gay people. You know, it's just very white, straight male. Yep. And that first tour I did, Duran, obviously, like they're super progressive and very like nice people. The next tour I did, also an artist, George Michael, gay, or bisexual at least, very like progressive. And that tour had the most awful human being running it. I had a production manager that literally like yelled in my face, so close to my face that he would spit on me. And I'm like, never in my adult life has anybody ever yelled at me that close or spit in my face, especially when I wasn't actually doing anything wrong. And I was definitely like picked on that tour. I'm doing air quotes, picked on. And I was, left to kind of think like, am I getting picked on because I'm the only girl? Am I getting picked on because I'm the new kid on this tour? I don't know, but I'm not going to let you assholes win. And I'm just going to keep moving forward and doing my thing and not letting you see me be upset about it. And that sort of, after the honeymoon phase of Duran Duran, a lot of my tours after that were kind of similar, not necessarily with like the asshole production manager, but very much like coded sexism, a lot of homophobia. Like I did the Madonna tour, and like you would think it's Madonna, like she is a gay icon. Half of our audience are gay men who are dressed as Madonna. Like this should be a tour that's full of people that understand like LGBTQ rights and like believe in them, like believe that these people should be equal. And at some point on the tour, one of the carpenters found out that somebody else on the tour was a gay man, and it was fucking ruthless, like making comments about him sucking cock and like all of this stuff about him not being able to do his job because his mouth was full. And it's all stuff that they would say about the women when we weren't around. And because I am who I am, I went straight to the tour manager and was like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, these are your people that you have hired, and they are literally sexually harassing this man at work. What are you going to do about it? And they talked to the carpenters and were like, we're a friendly tour. You can't be homophobic, or you can't at least be openly homophobic, because we're not going to fire you. Even though we know you're 100% homophobic, you're still going to have your great job, but could you just not say that stuff out loud or around that sound girl over there, because she's going to make this a problem. And basically, like, I have been an audio pariah ever since. So, one of my friends actually an ex-friend, I guess. He rage deleted me. I was doing something on Facebook where I was calling out some sort of nonsense, and they were like, you're just a fucking audio pariah, Shay. Like, nobody wants... Yeah, exactly. What a surprise. Shay is calling out inequality? Weird.
You're audio pariah. I like that one. Queen of the caps. Queen of the capital letters. I mean, again, I don't like yelling. I just talk sternly. But yeah, no, some audio pariah. I actually have that on my Facebook page now, and I'm like owning it. I'm like, that is the best thing I think that has ever been used to describe me. And I know it's a negative thing. Right. You know it's a negative thing, but
I'm just like, fuck it. Like, yes, I am an audio pariah, and I will continue to call out racist, sexist, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, disablephobic, all of that shit. I will keep calling out all of those people because they need to be fucking called out. And I'm established enough in my career, and I choose not to work for people who are going to judge me for being a feminist and anti-racist. So I could give a fuck what they think.
I was going to say, you seem to have a pretty healthy attitude about the whole thing. And when I say that, I mean about the perception, the image that it creates. You're smiling. You know.
Oh, I know.
Like,
I know what this has done to my career. Trust me. I know that I have made it so there are certain people that won't hire me. And I know that there are people who even contact like my male friends that stick up for me. They get private messages from people being like, you can't defend her. You're not going to get hired if you defend her. And it's just like, okay. Like, yeah, it's probably true. There are tours that I will not get hired on, but like,
you probably,
I don't want to be on those fucking tours anyways.
Right, you wouldn't want to do it anyway. What do you think is the best way to affect change? Hold on. Scratch that fucking question.
That's a heavy question.
Let's
man.
just. I'm sorry. As you found this voice, I'm trying to get to the core of like some leadership things, not just with you, but just in general. I just want to sort of wrap about it in a second. Because like, as you started to find your own voice and started to take on these issues and think about these issues and imagine, read about these issues and look at your industry and whatnot, did you start to look at, well, I could be, here's a parallel. I could be Dr. King or I could be Malcolm X. Which way am I going to go? You clearly chose Malcolm X. But,
I'm burning it the fuck down and rebuilding it.
But don't forget, Malcolm started coming around toward the end after his trip to Mecca. Don't forget about that now.
True.
He did start to find a different way or see a different way. But I'm just curious, and I spoke to Grace Royce, was on the show a few weeks ago, and we talked about, different ways of dealing. And I'm not suggesting in any way to change what you're doing, because I look at it as like, well, for every Malcolm, you need a Martin or Dr. King, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
I am showing you my cards as a white dude because I can't come up with the proper female parallels in that world.
Right.
So I apologize to you and to all the women out there for not
knowing.
knowing.
Yeah, it's fine.
Hell, I don't even know what a fucking lead patch person does. So how about that one? No, I do. I know that one I can figure out. But you know what I mean? So I'm just curious for you, like, because you are taking something on.
Yeah.
You're taking a mantle.
No, I am.
And so when you think about it, like,
I've politicized my career.
yeah.
For sure.
Do you think there is a spot for you? Would you like there to be a spot for you outside of the audio profession, pushing women and women's rights to do more? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you thought about like, you know what? I could do some damn good over here.
Yes. And if there was ever a career path that I would take that isn't this one, it would be to be like full on activist. And just, like, unfortunately, I don't have the ability to do that the way that I would like to right now. And that's also why it's very important to me to be on this tour with Amanda Palmer, because it's an activism tour. We have Planned Parenthood tabling at every single show. We have headcount registering people to vote at every show. The show is very political. It is very still based around kind of like white feminism. And that's an area where I feel like I am here to kind of push us towards being more anti-racist with our activism, specifically on that tour. But I have talked with other people in my industry about starting an organization to actually support people who are having issues with like actually being discriminated against, like a support group. Something similar to like what Music Cares does for like musicians with mental health, but like specifically for women, non-binary folks, Black women, Black men, people of color, disabled people, basically like as inclusive as we can be to like actually give support to these people, because there's a lot of organizations that exist right now, and I don't really want to get into them specifically, that, claim to support women and move women forward. But, I'm maybe they're being a little to MLK, and I want to go Malcolm X, and I want there to be like tangible ways for people to deal with the issues that they come across at gigs. I think I sent you a copy of the blog that I wrote about what a bad thing that happened on tour. I want there to be a place where that can be out and talked about, and not hidden on somebody's blog that will never ever be seen by anybody that I don't send it to directly. I want people to be able to tell the stories about being harassed at work and have a concrete way of like getting them help, getting them out, getting them a different job. And I already do that on a personal basis with the people that I mentor, and just like being accessible to everybody in the industry that wants to contact me. I am the person that will fight for you. And I've said this to people, like if somebody like is harassing you, like, and you need somebody to be there, I will fucking show up. Like I will get on a plane and come to your show or your venue or your nonprofit space and stand in a corner and fucking punch somebody in the face if I need to. Like I'm not a violent person, but when people like, it's just like when people really are taking advantage of the people that have the least opportunity in this business, it's just like I'll be that person for you. And I can be that person because I am already the audio pariah. Like I'm already this person. So why not push it further and really be an advocate for people who need it?
It's always striking to me when I get into these conversations with all of you out on the road, that we're talking about, well, first of all, it's 2019. Let's not forget that. And we should be a lot farther than we are.
Sure.
And we're talking about music. We're talking about a thing that ultimately should and does bring joy to people and bring people together. And yet these things exist. But I'm also struck by the large percentage of people that I have on the show, tour managers, production managers, and whatnot, that are very clear and very serious about leading a tour and a crew that has a zero tolerance policy. So I would imagine, Shay, that you obviously are not alone.
Yeah.
And that there will at some point be a way to manage this stuff, and maybe to call it back and bring it full circle as things morph toward a more direct fan base, and the crews and the bands and the artists bring things a lot closer to home.
Yeah.
There's a way to do that. Maybe. That could have been a reach on my part.
I mean, I hope.
Yeah.
You know, I hope that we are moving in a better. I hope that we're moving in a better direction. But then I hear, the same shit that happened to me is happening to other women still. Like bosses getting fresh, like people touching people inappropriately. Have you ever had a man touch the small of your back to say excuse me before? Ever?
No.
Yeah, that happens all the time to women. And just like, you don't have to touch me to say excuse me. And when that's like your boss or your coworker, it's like, this feels really gross. Can I say something about it? Or am I just going to be viewed as a bitch because I'm like, please don't touch me? And it's like, men don't have to ask not to be touched. Men just don't touch other men.
But what if there are men who do touch other men?
I've asked this question to a lot of people, and so far I don't know any men that routinely get touched at the small of their back to ask them to move.
Right. Okay. Small of the back.
It's purely anecdotal.
Right. Yeah. And it's a lot of work.
I know it sounds pessimistic.
No, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done.
I do. Yeah, there is a lot of work, and it's, I'm hopeful, and I'm really, really inspired by how many people contact me privately once I blow something up on the internet. People,
you must get contacted a lot because you're blowing shit up all the time.
I got lots of great PMs, trust me. And it's good. It's good because people see me blowing shit up on the internet and they maybe don't get it, or they do get it, but they don't want to be the one to blow it up. And then they send me messages privately and say, thank you so much, because I'm a trans woman, and when I'm in this setting and people say things like this, I don't feel like this space is for me. And because of the way that you call stuff out, I feel like maybe there is a place for me. And if I never get another fucking job in my life, it's worth it, because I'm helping other people move forward and maybe get where they want to be.
Listen, I don't think I can find a better spot to end this one on than that little quote right there. I think that's awesome. And I wish you luck in it. And, if you have to take that on and that's your role, then you seem like you're pretty healthy about it all.
I mean, nobody's forcing me to do this.
Yeah.
I'm making these choices on my own volition because I think it's the right thing to do.
Good. I want to thank you, Chez, for coming on and sharing your tale with me and with us, and your honesty and your truth, putting it out there.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being able to have a platform to talk about this stuff and hopefully reach a couple more people.
All right, friends, let's give it up for Miss Chez Stock. Chez, thank you for coming on the show, dropping some knowledge on us here at Roadie Free Radio. Keep up the good fight, my friend. Guys, next week, episode 133. Guess what? I've got the man, the amp, the legend, Mr. Richie Fliegler is on the show right here at Roadie Free Radio during the week. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Podcast, YouTube, and Spotify, folks, all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com, and send me a note, info@roadiefreeradio.com. And my friends, in the meantime, you all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.